right, gang. Well, thank you for joining me for another episode of Illustration Masterclass. I hope that you are all having a fine Friday out there, and I'm glad that you are here with me today. We are going to today be talking about the importance of values, whether that be in your drawings or your paintings. And of course, just because you're working in a digital environment, it doesn't in any way mean that your understanding of this very basic, very core principle of art is not understood and employed in your work. It's going to elevate everything that you do, and I'm excited to talk to you about it today. I want to say hi to some folks who are joining us over here in the live chat over on Behance. Remember, folks, if you are watching over on YouTube or Twitter, then I am most likely not going to be seeing your comments. Not that you can't watch there and you can't enjoy the show from wherever you are, but I am following the chat over here on Behance. That's B-E as in to be or not to be by the great Bill Shakespeare. be.net/Adobe Live. And that's where you're going to find the live chat. Lots of very kind and loving folks in there who are always happy to help with questions and hints and comments and good things. Saying hi to some of those folks right now. Cody Bear, what's up, Cody Bear? Fellow artist and streamer. RB and Steve, hello, hello. Steve, you were joining us yesterday on the Twitch stream. Appreciate it. And Z by HP, what's up with you, Z by HP? Hope you're doing well. Robert, hope I said hi to you. Maybe I missed you, sorry. Misty, hi, Misty. Kathleen, what's up? Marie, nice to see you. And Gareth, all these nice folks. Thank you for being with me today for Illustration Masterclass. Now, we're going to jump right into the good stuff. Here we go. Photoshop. Let's do our magic right here. Now, we have, if you look right here, a very simple composition with elements that are rendered in gray, various gray colors here. And what I want you to notice about this is that these all have a solid, clear, hard edge to them. So these are simple shapes. And what we want to do is we want to examine why, when I look at this image, it is easy for me to understand what I am looking at. So let's take a look at that for a moment. First and foremost, what would you guess would be sort of the focal point, if there were one, in this illustration? What would you think would be the focal point, and why? That's my question to you. When I look at this, okay, I am naturally drawn to this area here. And I'll explain the reasons for why that is. Now, setting aside compositional reasons, okay, just looking at darks and lights, the reason I am drawn to this area is because of the contrast between this black shape here and this white shape here. This is a point of high contrast, dark against light, and in the most extreme configuration possible of that arrangement of values. And so because of that, and because of the clarity of that hard edge shape, white on black, I look at and I go, well, I just keep returning to that area. Now, if you've seen my illustration masterclasses on composition, then you also know that we have lines, okay, guiding lines in this illustration that are pointing me here. This very clear pathway, both literally and figuratively speaking, is taking me right there and saying, hey, buddy, look over here. This little diagonal, this vertical, everything's kind of pointing me to that. Not to mention the fact that it does sit roughly in the intersection of where we would have 1/3 here and 1/3 here. Okay, so these things don't hurt. But again, like I said at the beginning, setting all that aside, right there, we have contrast. And that is the first thing we want to talk about. When in a picture, you have an area of high contrast, the viewer's eye will be directed to that area. Now pause for a moment and think about what that means for how you design pictures. If you were to have 30, 40 super high contrast interactions, okay, arrangements throughout your composition, well, as a viewer, what would happen to me? I would have nowhere to really lock in, and I would be bouncing around your picture endlessly, and everything would sort of take on a sameness to it. And, well, that's usually not something that you're aiming for. And so the most common mistake I see when it comes to the use of values in student artwork or in beginner artwork is too much high contrast, just the same level of contrast all throughout the picture, or the opposite, very little contrast all throughout the picture. And as a result, there is no, keyword here, clarity, okay? I can't read the image. It's not legible. You need that clarity so that when someone first encounters your illustration, your photograph, your painting, your drawing, right out of the gate, they go, ah, there is an organized structure of values here. Not that they're thinking this consciously and going through this dialogue in their head, but this is what's happening in their brains. I can clearly read what's going on here. I see which elements I'm meant to focus on. I see the arrangement of elements. I see the foreground, the middle ground, and the background. And I understand the picture. And this happens very, very quickly if the artist has done a good job of arranging these pictorial elements compositionally. But today what we're talking about is with the value structure. Okay, so the value composition should work. This also means, just like when we've talked about in past masterclasses about there being a balance of big, medium, and small, relationships between these things, whether it's shapes, right, a variety, and that maybe most of the shapes are more angular, some are curvilinear, or vice versa, or most of the shapes in a picture are sort of more vertical or horizontal with a few diagonals, okay, punctuating some elements that are important, etc. With values, it's the same thing. Just like I said earlier, you could have, excuse me, high contrast all throughout the place. Just a whole bunch of blacks and whites and blacks and whites all over the place, difficult to look at. Or you could have no contrast at all. Contrast is just so low that it's difficult to look at. But you could also have a perfect balance of all of the range of values, so much so that I don't know where to look. And so you have to have some weight somewhere, okay? And that's a tricky thing to pull off. Now, here's what I want you to do. If you're watching this live or if you're watching this recorded, if you have the screen large enough to do this, even if you're watching on a phone, you can probably still pull this off. Try squinting down to blur your vision slightly and look at this picture. Try squinting down on it. And what I hope you'll find is that the difference between the white of the sky, the value of the white of the sky, okay, and the mountains here, okay, is still clear and readable, legible. But that compared to these dark areas, okay, they sort of merge together. They're close enough in value that they kind of join one another a little bit. And so that if you wanted to take this entire picture and break it down into just two values, okay, which I think it's a Japanese word, but I'm not entirely sure. The word notan value, N-O-T-A-N. That what you would get in its most extreme form, and if I just do this, I'll take this group, And I'll go ahead and push our contrast here. We'll pull up our levels in Photoshop. Okay, we're going to push our darks, and we're going to bring up our lights. This is the result. And what you get is a nice balance here between darks and lights, medium-sized shapes, small shapes, large shapes, okay? As well as a variety in the shapes, etc. So as a pictorial composition made up of just values, if we're just thinking about values here, this is going to work. Also, we're thinking about things, these things never should be not present when you're thinking about composition. The importance of guiding the eye with, and the importance of movement throughout the picture, diagonals, things pointing you in certain directions and all that. But also, remember when we talked about composition, and if you haven't seen those classes, you can watch them back. Just go to YouTube and search Kyle Webster, Masterclass, Composition. I believe it's a series of five episodes. So 5 hours of content there for you to watch. There's a way to split up that picture plane in an asymmetrical way. So it's a little bit more interesting for the viewers. You'll notice here, we're not splitting right down the middle, are we? We've got a diagonal here, okay, and then a diagonal coming up this way. So we get a nice triangle of activity here, split roughly amongst the thirds there, top, middle, bottom, etc. Tiny shapes here that are interesting. Tiny shape here, high contrast. There's that moment right there, okay? All right, so that's what we're looking at here. So all these things, it's a lot to consider, but let's have some fun for a moment. And let's do this. I'm going to take this group here of elements that I have, slide it on over, okay? And we are going to play with some of these elements. They're all on separate layers. That's very handy. And we're going to see what we can do with this by changing things around and just see if it's still legible, does it still read, things like that. This is a fun experiment and a good thing to do when you're starting off with an illustration or a painting or whatever, to play with darks and lights and see how things read and how things push forward and back and so on. And to keep it really simple. Now you notice I just have white and black and just 3 values in between them. One is a 50% gray. This is roughly a 25% gray, and it's roughly a 75% gray. Okay, or I should say black. Okay, whatever. You get the idea, right, Kay? And so I'm going to play with those same colors with these elements. Okay, so we'll take a look now here. We're going to start with the sky. All right, so I'm going to pop on back to the sky color here, and I'm going to drop that in to this group. And I'll just isolate it right here. And currently it's white, right? The only white element apart from the little window there. But what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and we're going to take this 50% gray and just, just drop that in there. I had to lock my layer transparency. I'm not changing anything else, just that one element. But look what that does. Very different. Now look, everything else here is the same. But what does that one change do for the image? Well, first of all, you may notice that it adds a lot more emphasis on the mountain. Now, we can't say right now if this is a good thing or a bad thing. We haven't played with color yet. There might be some pretty things you can do with color, some interesting things. All kinds of stuff could happen down the road. But it's worth noting what these value changes do when it comes to emphasizing or bringing to the front or pushing to the back different elements. And these changes happen rapidly, don't they? And they're really extreme. You look over here, well, I see a mountain, but I'm not giving it that much importance because why? What's the difference? Contrast. Here, more contrast, less contrast with that tree shape there, right? So things are shifting, things are changing a little bit. We still go here because of that white on black. That hasn't changed. But there's definitely a different feeling, a different ambiance. Everything here has shifted just with that one move, okay? So let's do some more stuff. Let's play around some more. We're gonna now take this whole group, slide it over here, and we'll try another little change here, okay? Let's see what else we can do with this. I'm gonna leave the sky as is, all right? And I'm gonna take this tree shape up here, all right? And we're gonna take that and we're just gonna do this. So now I've changed it from being black to a 75% gray right here, okay? Kablam. So there's still some contrast between the two, but now less so. Now, when I do that, we are less apt to focus here at all, frankly. We know there's a shape there and it's nice. It adds a bit of balance, it adds a bit of directional movement, etc. But because there's less contrast between the sky and between that element, it just takes on less importance. Okay? Interesting change. Interesting change. All right, so we're going to play around some more. Play around some more. All right, made a little change there. Let's take this guy. We'll take the whole thing. And we're going to move it over here. Okay, there we go. Make sure it's roughly, it doesn't have to be identical to the other ones, but I want to make sure we're close enough in terms of how it's lined up with everything there. There we go. And now let's make some more changes. Okay, first thing I'm going to do, watch this. I'm going to grab some white, and we're going to take this house sitting right here, okay? And we're going to make the house white, and we're going to make the window black. We still have the most contrast there, don't we? White and black. But here's the thing. The white against the mountain now provides very little contrast. So what does that do to the importance of this shape? It almost feels, if you squint and look at it, like this black shape has too much contrast. It's too dark. It doesn't make sense against the white of the house and then against that mountain, which actually they kind of blend together into one shape, right? There's really not that much distinction anymore between the two, is there? But what if I do this? This is going to be interesting. We're going to take that mountain, okay? And we're going to grab our 75% gray and knock it in like this. Okay, and then what do we have to do here with this? Okay, our hill. Well, we'll grab our 25% gray right here, switch that up. Okay, everything's changing now. Look at this, how it's reversing things out, etc. Right, very, very different, very, very different. This starts to feel like I gotta go there, I gotta look there. Why? Why do I suddenly pay attention to this? Did I pay attention to it over here? No. I knew it was there, and it's a nice little element that just kind of fills in that corner. Doesn't really serve any other purpose. Keeps me from getting stuck in the corner, if you will, okay? But really didn't take on that much importance. Why? Because the contrast here is lower. But now, this looks like something I should be paying attention to. When you are painting and drawing and making these pictures, a lot of times, especially when you're starting out, you pick colors and you just think, that looks like a nice color. I like the way that color looks. And you throw it down and you move on. But hopefully now, after watching this, this show today, you're really going to consider these things and look at them differently and be like, now hang on a second, what does that do to the elements in the picture with regards to their importance, or what I want to be important, or what I want the viewer to notice, okay? And this is going to make a big difference. So we have to address that now, don't we? So usually the solution is to add less contrast. So this being a 25% gray, I would go for the 50, okay? And then for that area in the front there, Where are we? Oops, wrong one. Sorry about that. There it is. Kablamo. I just reduced that now. And I want to push people back to this middle area where there's a lot more activity. So what do I do now? I take black, and I have these trees and bushes here. I take that tree on the left, try and push it to black. I take this bush right here, push it to black. Okay, so now we start to move over here a little bit more. And what about this path? Well, you might be surprised, but you know, I'm starting to think maybe with that path, I may actually push it all the way to black and see what happens. Not terrible. It definitely catches my attention and takes me here to where I want the viewer to go. Okay. Now, if I squint and look at it, I can still see all the elements. Everything still makes sense to me. But now that the sky is darker, I could balance it out with the black up here on this tree. And I don't think it's going to really suffer for that. See? So we come full circle. Some of the elements here, okay, have come back to their original form, right? Maybe here I want to go lighter. These are all the things I can continue to play with over and over and over again. I can say, what does that do? Well, that's kind of nice. What if I did the same with that bush right there? I don't know. Let's see what happens. Blends in with that whole shape. Is that good? Maybe. What happens if I take my 50% gray and I throw it in right here, and then I have to change this? Everything continues to shift and to change. I've eliminated that element now. It's not necessarily a bad thing, but I do want to bring it back. It's part of the drawing. I kind of feel like I need it. So I grab that 75% gray. I come back to that bush in the front. And now I do this. We zoom out and we look. Clear, clear, clear. Okay, little change here, very minimal. We didn't really do much, did we? Didn't do much here, just one element. But here we really went to town and started playing around and pushing things around. Okay, and it's a different feel. We still get this area here as our clear point of where we want people to be paying attention, right? We say, this is where I want your eyes, folks. Well, let's keep going. Let's keep going. I think you should try this. I really want you to try this exercise. It's really fun. But most of all, it's, what did I do there? Whoops. Somehow I forgot I didn't move it properly. There we go. You do this on your own. Find some time to just make a simple composition. If you want to just copy this one, why not? Why not? I can throw this Photoshop file up in a Dropbox link and share it for you on Twitter. Happy to do it. I could put that in the description for the show. After the show, you can download it. You can grab it. You can go to town. Okay, gang? I want you to use these assets if you need them, and just do more of what we're doing here. Very enjoyable to do this exercise and very educational. So, all right, let's keep playing. Let's keep playing. And before we do, though, I'll pause for a moment and see if we have any questions from our pals who are joining us here live. Vanessa, what's up? Hey, nice to see you. Hey, Kathleen. Hi, hi, hi. Danielle, nice to see you as well. Bonsoir. Salut, ça va? Dee, hi, how you doing? Nice to see you. Thanks for joining us. Beginner is a level you can only aspire to. Hey, we all start as beginners. We all start as beginners. But look, we have free, professional, educational resources here on Behance, on Adobe Live every week. It's incredible. Can you imagine? Man, when I was a student, I gotta tell you, if I could have watched some of this stuff and learned some of these ideas for free like this, what a great thing that would be. So listen, tell your friends. You got friends who are students, you got friends who are aspiring artists, friends who are starting out, let them know. You have a free resource right here every week. Fridays, you got a bunch of masterclasses, and all throughout the week, you have all kinds of great Adobe live streams. There's so much to learn. They're all archived too, so watch them back. All right, Kyle, get off your little thing there with your pitching and your sales and all that. That's not what you're here for. You're here to educate. So let's do it. we're gonna play around some more now. Now what I'm gonna do, this is gonna be really fun. This is what I've been excited about doing right here. Just pushing it all the way to nighttime. We're doing it. We're taking that sky, blam. There it goes, okay? By the way, you'll notice I got the birdies and I forgot to mess around with the birdies up here. I'll come back and I'll address that in a second. I forgot about our little friends there, shame on me. But in the meantime, let's play around with this, okay? I'm gonna go for less contrast up here. I'm gonna grab this 75% gray right here, or black, whatever you wanna call it. We're gonna take that tree up at the top and just do that. Isn't that pretty? Now you really can't miss this, can you? I mean, it's in your face. In your face. We're gonna push it back to black, okay? And instead of using bright white, I'm just gonna grab this 25% white and make the window a little dimmer than before, but because it's super high contrast against that black, we still read it as a focal point. Very nice how that happens. Okay, we go here to the 50%. We take care of this bush right here. We're going to take care of that tree right there. All right, and I like how this kind of blends, but you know, maybe I want to switch that up. Maybe there's moonlight, and that moonlight's going to illuminate this area right here. Okay, so we can take that hill and we can try using our 25% gray like that. See, not bad, not bad. As for this path right here, you can use a little less contrast if you want. We'll just go ahead and use this 50% gray. And we'll try that. Very nice. What do you think? Still read? Does it still look good? Notice how I zoom out to look at these. I zoom out because it lets me see it like the size of a postage stamp, and then I can really be like, all right, am I still getting it? Is it making sense to me, right? You don't have to use logic when you do this, by the way. Logic would dictate that, oh, you know, most of the stuff would be in shadow. Most of the stuff would be dark. The tree, for example, here. You know, these, you can do this though. You can try a completely different composition. And you can do this and it works, absolutely. You can take that hill if you want and just do this, okay? And then you can take everything else, right? The path, make it darker like that, make that bush in the front darker as well. And now you've really got a nighttime thing going on, right? And then with the birds, you know, same deal, just go dark. But now we have that light on. Now the crazy thing about this is you look at that light and you could swear it's white, right? You look at it and go, that's gotta be white. But we know it's not. Look, what is it? 25% gray, right there, folks. But it's so high contrast. I mean, you can't help but notice it. You just go straight to it. And there's a nighttime scene. And now we're only using 1, 2, 3, right? Sorry, 2, black, white, and gray, three values for the whole thing. We've taken some of these shapes and just blended them together, but everything reads. We still get the whole picture. We get it. All right. And you can simplify it further and make another picture, you know, where you get rid of the birds, get rid of the bush, get rid of the path. But you see how you can just keep going with this. It's really, really fun to do this and to play. And then when you're doing this with a more complex composition, you have maybe a couple of characters in an environment. You really got to think about this stuff, and just like everything else we've done in the past where we talk about, there's an episode of Illustration Masterclass where we talk about big to small. That's why you want to be simple with stuff, and you want to think about areas of the illustration. Generally speaking, this area is going to be this kind of dark or light, this certain value. And over here, and you're thinking about it big to small, big shape here, big shape here. Within that bigger shape, I'm going to break things up a little bit. This is a little lighter, this is a little darker. But when I squint down, I want to make sure I see the important elements, right? And that's how you got to approach it. And same thing goes with color. Same thing goes with how you're doing your shape design, all this stuff. Alrighty. How are you changing the colors without using the selection tool, Derek says. And I see that RB has answered that, but here's the answer for you right here, Derek. See this little box next to the word lock? on any layer you have in a Photoshop document, okay, you can, quote unquote, lock the pixels that are on that layer so that any changes you make, color-wise, value-wise, anything you do to that layer, you're only able to edit the existing pixel data on that layer. Very, very handy feature. You can think of it as a sort of destructive way to work when compared with clipping masks. Clipping masks allow you to do painting or, you know, very specific things on top of another layer using the selected area of the layer beneath, okay, the shape of the layer, the shapes of the layer beneath it. So clipping masks are a non-destructive way to kind of work this way, but for the sake of speed, okay, and because I'm filling everything with just one solid color, and it's easy to revert, I'm using layer transparency lock right here. Try it, it's very useful. Bye, Vanessa, take care. You did a photography class, says Michelle, where I was the only person to use black and white film until the tutor saw my prints from a portrait session. We didn't have me explain my lighting decisions. Aha. Oh, Mr. Steven's saying that, sorry. Yes, yes, yes. Derek says you're used to doing Adobe Illustrator. Ah, yes, this is, everything I'm doing here is raster. This is pixel stuff. But these principles apply to everything, right? Okay, so we're going to do one more here. We're going to just throw it on over here. Take this, slide it on over. Okay, bing, 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 bing. Make sure we lined it up about the same. Okie dokie. There you go. And now let's just completely turn things around and upside down. All right. We're going to take that lighter color, our 25% gray, and we're going to open up our layers here, and we're going to make the sky that color. Okay? Now, I want you to see what a huge difference this makes. Right away, we get a sense of time of day. When do things look like this? Well, this is so accurate, and this is what I love about being able to play with the values. When it's sunrise or sunset, and the sun is low behind elements in your landscape, such as, in this case, mountains, you see the brightness of that light. In this case, it's illuminating the sky, but it has not yet risen to the point where it can illuminate the elements here in our line of sight as the viewer, right, that are being blocked, so to speak, by that mountain. And right away, this gives you a very specific feeling, a very specific mood and ambiance, completely different from any of these other pieces, okay? Now, honestly, between this and all of the other ones, this is my favorite so far. And all I had to do is change this one element after having experimented with the nighttime. We changed the sky, and suddenly we realized, oh, this has a real feeling to it. Okay, it even has a bit more storytelling, like, why is the light on? Right? If it's really, really early morning, somebody getting ready to go to school, to go to work, right? Or is it someone's come home and now the sun is setting, birds are going to fly around for a bit and then go to their nests or whatever, and meanwhile someone's just come home and they're pouring themselves a nice cocktail. I don't know. But this is so great, isn't it, to be able to play. It doesn't take any time at all. You set up your structure, you start playing with those values, and then boom, you arrive at something you like. And folks, that's when you say, I could play a little more if I have the time, but if not, I'm happy with this. Now I want to go forward and I want to start playing around with color. And the great news about this is that when you get your values right, okay, listen carefully, when you get your values right, the color almost doesn't matter. Now, somebody might come yell at me about saying this, but the color almost doesn't matter because The values are what make it really clear for your viewer to be able to read what's happening in the picture. They make the picture legible, okay? So the colors almost don't matter. And let's see if that's true or not, okay? We're gonna try something here. We will take this group right here, and we're gonna duplicate it, and we're gonna hide everything else, okay? Zoom in here for a moment, and we're gonna take a look at this. And we're going to throw a layer on top where we're going to try playing with some color. Okie dokie. So here we go. We'll start with our sky. All right. So here we go. Throw a layer on top, and I'm going to just clip it to the sky here. Okay, so I'm going to hold down Option and tap between these two layers. It's going to clip to the information there. Okay, to that layer. And I'll just take any color, doesn't matter, and throw that color in there. And now watch this. Here, I'm going to change the mode to color right here. What that'll do is match the value with that color. If I go here and do the same thing, look, I can go as dark as I want. It's not going to change anything, right? This color is going to be the same, right? So it's taking that color information and it's just doing that. I can move it around this way, try different things, whatever. Now, let's go over here. You think, oh, you're going to use green or something like that. No, let's just try something funky, because again, I'm not too concerned about the colors right now. The values should, in theory, take care of business for me, all right? So I'll make another layer and I clip it to the tree. Clippity clip. All right. Change its mode to color. And we'll just do this. Okay. Now that color, right, it's going to match whatever the value is with that. It's like tinting it, basically, if you want to think of it that way. So there's another color right there. And then for the mountains, I don't know, use a blue or something like that. Go over to the mountains, make a new layer, hold down Option, clip it, change the mode to color, and slam that in there, just like that. Am I supposed to be using color or hue? Color, yeah, and make sure I'm doing this correctly. Sometimes I get confused with those. All right, now this is pure black, right? So there really isn't any color I can use there. I can leave it black right now, or I could change that layer to be just slightly brighter, and then I could tint it so it wouldn't be pure black. But for now, I'll leave it. It's not a big deal. We'll go over to the birds. All right. And let's come around this way and grab a little kind of a greenish color here. Make a new layer, clip it to the birdies, change the mode to color, and fill that in. See what's happening here? Doesn't matter what I do. Everything reads. It's fine. For this red color that I was using, okay? If I come back to that red and I go to this bush now, right here, this one, add a layer, clip it, and then we're going to change the mode to color, fill it right there. Adding that color adds more contrast because of the nature of the color itself, but that's okay. What do we do with the path? I don't know. Do we want to keep this like a simple sort of a deal with only a certain number of colors? I don't care. I'm going to take that same purple color and I'm going to throw it onto the path. And because of the fact that this is a lighter area and this is a darker area, it's just automatically going to adjust it accordingly. So we're going to go now to that path, which is already clipped right here. And I just add a layer, clip it to the clip, change its mode to color and fill it. And finally, we have that little window. Clippity clip. Change the mode to color. And throw a little kind of a greenish yellow in there. Now we zoom out and we look at it. Totally fine. Doesn't matter. Now, here's what's fun, okay? You take this whole thing right here, and you say Command J, all right? So I'm duplicating that entire layer group. Command E. What does Command E do? Takes the whole thing, condenses it down to one layer, and then we do this. We grab our hue and saturation sliders, and look, we just start doing this. Just keep on pulling around and around and around. Kind of like that. That's kind of nice. And then I go, well, I don't like this anymore. I like this, I like this, I like this. This is really starting to do something. But I want to change things around. So this is where it's really fun. You can say, okay, cool. Grab your lasso tool. Grab these areas here, right? Or grab this right here. Say too much saturation. Command U. Desaturate that bad boy. Push it around to a different kind of a color. You can do this all day long. Just keep playing with stuff. Does not matter. Push more towards blue like this. Kind of a purpley color. Desaturate. Grab that window. Push that back more towards sort of that sky color. Like that. Take this bush. Push it more towards that brown kind of a color there. There's an idea. Take that sky color. You can select with your magic wand. Bring it up. More like a sort of a morning kind of a thing. Like that. These birdies. I can change the value for them a little bit because they were kind of high contrast, but actually I'll leave it the way it is. It's fine. I don't mind it. Green is nice. I do kind of like that greenish blue, like the clouds. And maybe kind of more of a brown color like this. Maybe desaturate that a little bit. See how we do this? And then, just as we were doing before, you can continue to iterate on this. You can do tones. I could do this, for example. I could throw a layer on top, okay? Or no, here, I can just add, right down here at the bottom, a nice little adjustment layer, okay, for hue and saturation. And I can do a colorize. Push it one way or the other. And what I can do then is I can reduce the opacity of that layer. Try like a 50%, something like that. Play with the tones there. That's kind of nice. It's giving me like a nice vibe right there. I like this color a lot. This is really, this is kind of a sophisticated kind of a palette right here, and I kind of want to take it. And I want to take this path right here, this right here, and just throw that that color in there. Let me grab that right there, just like that. Let's see how that looks. And then for that bush, come back here, we just grab that, magic wand that bad boy. Right? This is what I'm talking about. And then you arrive at this. Really fun. Okay? But if you don't believe me about this color stuff, and I actually kind of want to make a little travel poster with this, whatever. We're going to jump for a moment, okay, to something else. We're going to hide this for just a moment here. We're going to open this. Now here you have a painting by the great N.C. Wyeth. N.C. Wyeth. If you don't know N.C. Wyeth, get to know our pal N.C. Wyeth. Fantastic painter. Father to Andrew Wyeth, celebrated American painter. Now look at this painting by Wyeth. All right, absolutely amazing. If you're going to break things down into simple shapes, big shapes, and all this kind of business, okay, well, we have a tool for that. In my actions palette, which you can get on my Gumroad, I can just simply take this layer and I can say I want to have a noton sort of view of this, and so I can do 2 values or 3 values. We'll do a 3-value noton. Okay, there it is. So we can hide this for a moment, and you'll just see, just look at this series of really interesting organic shapes in this composition. Right? Isn't this fun? Absolutely fantastic. And this is really breaking it down to super high contrast. Okay? If we look at it again, and then do a little thumbnail of it, okay, we could copy paste this on its own layer here. Whoops, sorry about that. Here we go. We'll go ahead and copy paste this on its own layer right there, and we'll take that and we'll do a little simple color thumbnail of that. Okay, so we'll do that. Simple color thumb. Just pop that up in the corner. And what I want you to notice is, right, if you squint and look at it, can you all from this size, I hope if you're looking online and watching this, you can see what I see. If you squint and look just at this thumbnail area, you are still clearly going to understand the image, which is crazy. I mean, look at what we're looking at here, gang. Look at these, they're just blobs. Right? But you squint and you look at it and you go, oh, cool, I see a figure walking down a path. So anyway, there's just so much to break down here and enjoy and appreciate about how well done this is. But we're here to talk about what? We're here to talk about values. We're talking about the darks and the lights. I could do a noton 2-value thumb, throw that up there, and you can see how all that stuff can be understood and blended together. Okay, really cool. But let's take a look at that for a moment here. And what I was saying a moment ago about the color thing, if you don't believe about the colors, well, one of the things you can do is take a painting that's quote-unquote successful, you know, created by somebody who knew what they were doing, illustration, whatever it is, and just do something weird with the colors. Pull up your hue and saturation sliders, okay, and do this. Right? Green sky. See that? Doesn't matter. Remember what I said about doesn't matter? It doesn't matter. I get it. Why am I able to see everything in this picture and completely understand it? Every single part of it. Even though, okay, this guy's blue. It's not Avatar, right? Purple trees and, you know, sky, brown sky, and logic doesn't enter into this at all. What matters here is the legibility of the image, and what makes that work? Well, no matter what I do with the colors, okay? If I do this, okay, we're just gonna take this image here. We're going to fill a layer with black over the top of it and set that to hue or color. Either way, you're going to get similar result. I'm just taking all the color out of that image. I'm sucking the color out of that image. This is a slightly different thing than if you were to take it and reduce the saturation. Not quite the same thing. If you want to get a closer read on the darks and lights, this is a better way to do it. The best way to do it is to actually change your image mode for viewing the colors. So view, proof setup, and you go to custom, and you're going to scroll on down to, for those people who really want to know how to do this, you're going to scroll on down to, where are you? Oh, here, working gray dot gain. Okay, and that'll do the same thing. All right, but anyway, I could show this picture to you in black and white or in grayscale values like this. You have no problem understanding what's happening in the image. Everything reads crystal clear. And there's, again, those big shapes and everything else, right? All the way down to the little fine points, the little doggy with the shadow, right? Where there needs to be high contrast, there is high contrast. Let's talk about something really, really simple. Just this shape right here, okay? If it weren't for that, if he had given this person longer hair, okay, and not added a shadow here to render that head so we understand where the light's coming from, right? This whole shape would have blended in with the coat, with the background. It would not project itself forward. We wouldn't understand that's a head, etc. But if you squint and look at it, what do you see? A bright shape right there on the neck, and that separates it from background. And there's enough contrast between that background and that coat, just enough. If we look at those two colors together, one, right over here, look at your color picker, okay? We have one here, so look at where that is right here on our scale from black to white, and two. Do you see a huge difference? Look at that jump again. 1, 2. It's enough though, it's 15%. 15% goes a long way, doesn't it? Sometimes you don't need as much as you think, but you gotta really kind of feel that out to get just enough for that contrast to work. Anywho, pretty fun to do this. Now let's just move this layer to the top and we'll use it later. All right, let's take a look at this. Homer, Winslow Homer, heck of a watercolorist, okay? Now this is a completely different situation. What are we doing here and then through here and here? These are low contrast areas. Are we meant to focus on those and spend a lot of time up here in the clouds? He certainly took his time and intentionally painted specific shapes in there. Why bother if we're not going to look? Well, because that adds enough interest, and it also adds movement and vibration in those spaces, okay? This interest keeps it from being too flat. But guys, if I were to just squint way down on this, right? Look at this fantastic focal point. There's just no question about where I'm supposed to be looking, okay? Sure, there's some high contrast up here in the tree, but we are always going to gravitate towards human figures. We can't help ourselves. That's what we do. And there you go. There it is, okay? Phenomenal. And let's do it quickly here. Play with those colors. Look at that. I'm going to push the colors this way. Even bump up the saturation. Does it matter? No, it's still beautiful. Everything works. Everything's great. Go this way. Go crazy with it. Does it matter? Doesn't matter. Okay? Let's look at our darks and lights. Perfect. Beautiful. All right, let's take it and let's make a notan. Notan. Okay? There you go. It's taking the whole square, sorry, but you get the idea, right? A few simple shapes with a ton of space around them. That's a totally different kind of piece. What about this? John Singer Sargent, right? Look at that. Look at these values. Kablamo. Squint down on that and look at how beautifully all this stuff got put in here so that we have some interest. We have a diagonal pulling us up this way. Look at the contrast from the hair to the face and the facial features, and then this whole area is starting to get dark up here, framing that chair. All these great shapes. Gorgeous. Amazing. Look at that asymmetry right there. right? You think, oh, it's a figure seated in the center. No! This shape right here, we're crossing the legs. Asymmetry everywhere you look. This arm is not doing what this arm is doing. Okay? Everywhere you look. Fantastic balance. Fantastic balance. Make the colors crazy. Who cares? Still works. Think about this stuff when you're working, folks. Think about this stuff. Thanks for hanging out. I hope you have a wonderful day, and I'll see you next time. Take care of yourselves. Take care of each other. Remember to be kind. Ciao for now.